Welcome back to Beyond.The.Mic Politics. We are so excited. We're bringing you a special episode today. I think this is our first time doing an interview. So we're very much excited. So without further ado, I will introduce you to the esteemed Jamie Campbell, and he is going to tell you guys a little bit about himself.
Well, so again, thank you all for having me. I hope we can have a great dialogue this evening. As it was said, I'm Dr. Jamie Campbell. Currently work in the Smith College of Business and do a whole bunch of things throughout the community. But excited to be here this evening and willing to talk to you all, and just glad to have an open conversation.
And we appreciate you greatly for taking the time out of your evening to come and speak to us. So today, what we're going to be talking about is what's going on with DEI. I mean, you see it everywhere in the headlines. It's getting taken down. It's this. Federal funding is not going towards it anymore. So there's a lot that's happening, and it's very hard to make sense of it. We're going to try and localize it a little bit, get a feel for what it looks like at Penn State, what it looks like at the university level. So my first question to you is, what do DEI programs and initiatives look like here at Penn State? And if you could give us some insight on both like the faculty side and also the student side, that would be great.
So I think when you talk about diversity programs, and I'm going to not just say diversity, equity, inclusion programs, but diversity programs, because we get focused a lot on just saying diversity or one of those specific letters. But I think when we talk about it, it's everything from looking at faculty recruitment, how we recruit, how we write job descriptions. And I know that sounds small, but that's a big thing. When you're looking at a faculty member, if you say he in certain positions, we know that people of color will not go past that sometimes, especially if we're talking about women or people of different orientation. It's just how they're made to feel sometimes when they're reading these different advertisements. We want to make sure that our advertisements are clean and open for everyone, and that when they read it, they feel like this is a welcoming environment. We also make sure that we interview everyone. And so when you're talking about DEI and looking at what we do for faculty, what we do for students, what we do for staff, it's try to be as much as inclusive as possible and also as engaging as possible. Like we take on everything from looking at benefits, like a partner benefits, spousal benefits, things like that. And I'm not an HR person, so there's probably a better way to say that. But it's talking about making sure we're taking care of families, making sure that we're taking care of our students. And I apologize tonight if you all hear me say I'm taking care of our kids, because when we talk about our students, it is a personal, for me, it is personal. And I do say my kids a lot. So it's just about how we engage that. Um, with students, it is about making sure that they feel welcome. And sometimes at a big school like this, it's hard for them to really get a feel for it. But we have services and we still provide those different in those different pockets on campus and throughout. We try to provide it throughout state college as well, like working with the high school, different things here and there.
I really resonate with what you said about trying to make it um trying to get the feel of it and making sure that people who are reading job applications or even
Mm-hmm.
students coming to school as prospective students, making them feel welcome, because I feel like that's such a huge part of what diversity programs are. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, especially in this climate that we're living in. It's kind of like, it's made to seem like a handout when in all actuality, it's really at its core about making people feel like they belong in a space that otherwise they might not have felt that way.
Yeah, I think it can be, and it can be challenging, especially because people who don't understand what the purpose was. Like a lot of times when folks interact with diversity measures, they feel like it's being done for one specific group and not for them, or that they're being excluded. If you look at diversity on a whole, everyone has something about them that makes them diverse. So even our counterparts that say, well, I'm white and I don't fit in. Well, okay, well, maybe you came from a single parent home. Maybe your socioeconomic status wasn't the greatest when you started. Like maybe you're a veteran. All of these things make you diverse. Maybe you have a different orientation. All of these things add in. Maybe your faith makes you different. All of these things include that. And what diversity tries to do, or what I've seen us try to do, is be all encompassing so that we can not only look at people who are usually are coming from underrepresented groups, but making sure that we also are looking at the different aspects that make us stronger as a group, because we have so many differences, so many different aspects that we can come from, and so many different positions we can work from. it makes us stronger when we can see all the angles, right? That's the biggest thing, making sure we can cover every angle, that we're not missing anything. So having everybody at the table helps.
It's a great explanation. I feel like the thing I hadn't really thought about was on the administrative side when it comes to hiring people. I like whenever I hear DEI, obviously as me as a student, I'm just thinking about like us, like if I was applying for colleges and stuff like that. But it's very like important to think as well, getting when it comes to like getting people that look like us that are professors and counselors and things of that nature. Like it's just that's a great point that you brought up. I didn't think about the other side.
I agree. It's like it's important to see like both sides of it. Kind of just our side, your side. But recently, it's gotten contentious. DEI, as many of us here know. But all these programs, initiatives, they started in 1960s, 1970s, towards the end of the civil rights movement, with the purpose of ensuring that all qualified candidates kind of had like the ability to be considered, be thought of when it came to applying for jobs. But
Mhm.
in recent years, it seems that thoughts of DI have kind of it's progressed into these people are unqualified, or
Right.
they're hiring people who shouldn't be. They're hiring for quota, or
Mhm.
to make or to get funding federally, something like that. So there's a lot of misconceptions. What are some of those biggest misconceptions, and how can those claims like be debunked with facts?
One of the first things I want to do is I want to touch on a word you use, quota, right? When we talk about this idea of quote unquote DEI hires, or how DEI impacts qualifications and skill set, it should be clear that no one wants a quota, right? No one wants to be able to say, oh, we're only hiring X amount. Because if you do that, you might really miss out on someone who is truly talented. So you don't want to say, okay, well, I want 5 women, 5 folks who are gay, 5 white guys, 5 white women, six, maybe one person that's differently able. You want to be able to say, I want the best at the table. And you never want to say we're only hiring X, because in some instances, depending upon who's doing the hiring, those quotas can become self-fulfilling prophecies. And what I mean by that is, and if you take my class, this is kind of one of the things we go about when we talk about affirmative action, because that's what you're asking about at its root. When we say, I'm going to bring you in, but I'm not going to mentor you, I'm not going to work with you. Like, we want to make sure that the people that come in are already qualified, if not overqualified, right? We want the best people for that job. So when they come in, there's someone to help mentor them, there's someone to engage them. And when we talk about mentorship, it's important to understand that anyone can be a mentor. Like, and I want to be clear, because I did say representation matters. But when it comes to mentorship, you want to make sure that people want to do it. You can't just say, okay, well, you're black and you're black, so I'm gonna put you two together. That doesn't work. If I'm a mentor, I have to want to mentor. I have to want to be there. And so on that, your ethnicity, your race, your orientation, it doesn't matter. Because for me, it's about making sure that I'm putting people with qualified people to do not only do the work, but then show them how the work should be done. Right. So when we talk about our first generation students, and for me, I'm first gen. So that's also impactful. So that means every kid that's first gen is mine. I got to make sure I'm working, right? Because if they're coming there saying nobody, I had parents that helped me, kind of threaten me to go to college and say I had to do stuff. But when you get here, you need people to be able to say, okay, this is how I did it, and take some time. And so whether it be a coach, whether it be a pastor, whether it be a rabbi, anybody can do that. And they don't have to look like you. And so when we talk about making sure we're hiring people for the job, I want and I want what everybody else wants. I want the best and the brightest. But I also want to make sure everybody has a fair chance to be there. Right. And we all know, and the reality is, it is how you fit in with the organization. And in some cases you may not get the job. But I never want any of my kids to say I didn't get the job because and you fill in whatever blank it is. I want them to get the job because they earned it and they were prepared for it. And that's part of our job here, to make sure that all of our kids are prepared. And so I think the university does a good job with putting people in place to make sure that our students are getting the best they can get.
Absolutely. I feel like just being a student of color, having those like mentors just in general who want to help and kind of guide us through kind of navigating the professional world, the career world means a lot. So, yeah, I really appreciate that the university has these programs in place. People like you and people who are just around in each college to really help with these programs. Kind of thank you.
I appreciate the sentiment. And I'm sure my colleagues do as well. We know that it's no matter what time, it's always going to be challenging to be in these roles, but we want to make sure that you all know you have folks to reach out to and that you're supported. And I don't think that's anything the university would say different.
Beautiful.
So my question is a bit of a personal one, but still on the same lines. How does the school administration balance the responsibilities of retaining a student first image, specifically to students of color? But I'm gonna tweak that, like you said, to include all diversities, like you emphasized
Mhm.
at the beginning. Thank you for doing that. But how does it retain a student first image, but also abide by federal regulations?
By being honest, I think when we know something, we say what we know, we say what we can say, we say what we can say, we do what we can do. I think we be direct with our kids. Like we say, when it comes to a student perspective, we say, this is what we can do. Many of you are in situations where we're treating you like adults, and we need to be able to have sometimes adult conversations. They're not always going to be polite, they're not always going to be pleasant, but we need to be able to say, okay, hey, look, here's where we are. And of course, you put as much on it as you can with our colleagues, the other coworkers, the staff, the faculty, just the community members. You're as honest and direct as you can. I think we need to be able to express when we're concerned and to a certain degree make sure that you all are all right. Like you all are here to get an education. So when we say we're student focused, or when I think you said student first, we want to make sure that we're covering you, but not in a sense of any false bravado or any any super happy or rainbows type deal. I'm probably not the best person to talk about like being super positive, but it is about saying, I want you to be understood and I want you to understand where we are in these situations. So it's always people first. It's always making sure you're taking care of the next person. And that I think is the best way to do both. We have to abide by whatever laws are put in place, but we can do it with grace, we can do it with class, and we can do it with concern.
Thank you for that answer. I was kind of thinking as you were saying it, I feel like our school hasn't been hit too hard in terms of regulations or federal funding freezing. But just from your perspective, even if it doesn't happen or anticipate that it does, kind of if your hands are tied as an administrator, like when your hands are tied in terms of what you can do for us, where do you think that us as students, students of color, diverse students in general, like where do you predict what gaps can we fill in? Like, where can we kind of pick up in that moment when you have to be honest and be like, this is all that we can do now because whatever happened, like, we can no longer say this, we no longer do this. What do you think that we can do to prepare for that moment? Or just like in that moment as students, like, what can we do? Where can we pick it up?
Vote. I mean, run for office. I mean, be engaged. Like elections have consequences, right? And this was a fair, duly done election, right? So this is where we are. This is not about, oh, well, they don't like this or they don't like that. Voting to me is one of the most important things you can do. Like, for example, when we moved out, when I first, my wife and family and we first got out here, we lived in Belfont. I served as judge of elections for maybe 4 or 5 elections out there. Wasn't any big deal. Nobody knew, but I went out there to make sure that, not to make sure, like to help. And then somehow I got to be judge, right? So like my name is on election ballots as the judge of elections out there. That was what I felt like I could do. If you all are saying, hey, we need change, we need this, we need that, cool. Let's figure out how to vote. Let's figure out why we don't have as many people who can vote. Like there's so many things you can do, but it starts there. Because if you vote, then you really do have a say, right? When you hear whatever your congressman or your senator or your mayor, you have these folks saying, this was the mandate. And even if you watch the news or don't watch the news, at least, or God forbid, read a paper, a newspaper. But you hear people say we have a mandate, and that was because there was a vote. So if you're saying like, what can we do? How can we be engaged? I think start there, and then there'll be other things. But if for you all, it has to be organic. Like I'm a little bit older than you, so Dan, don't say nothing. But I'm a little bit older, so for me, the voting, I understand, and like I understand a little bit better now. Like because when I was like in my 20s, it was kind of like okay, maybe I'll vote, maybe I won't, but I vote. And if it's a dog catcher election, I'm voting, right? If they're saying, oh, we got to have a constable, right? Because they here in Chicago, there's a constable, like a coroner. I'm voting, and I take my daughters with me when we vote. Like my oldest daughter, she can vote now. She doesn't have an excuse. Like either I take her or my wife takes her. She goes and votes either before school or after she gets out. After she gets out of class. So if you want to make changes, be productive, be engaged, read the different things, and create packs like those political action committees. Like when y'all are talking about like, oh, I'm a Venmo, whatever influencer you are. Well, Venmo somebody that's like putting the cause that you want. Put that together. Like this is not a time for us to sit back. This is a time for us to read and be engaged and understand why these things are in place as they are.
You guys heard it here. Vote. Next election, doesn't matter what election it is, get out there and vote. And I'm so, so glad that you said that because it's really my belief, and I don't even say my belief, but it's like history that students have always been at the forefront of change, which is why for me, seeing things like this, when the federal government is trying to enter into the educational sphere, especially higher education, it's concerning to me because universities are, I think, central to change, to social movements, because for so many people, it's their first time being exposed to maybe people from different walks of life. It's their first time being tested or being told to think outside of what's being put in front of you on a textbook. This is where a lot of people are developing their critical thinking skills and even just more basic than that, who they are as a person. So I think it's so important that you said like get politically activated because throughout history, civil rights movement, Vietnam War, Black Lives Matter, students have always been at the forefront of that, and they've always been such a key part of those movements, of those social movements. So yeah, I really thank you for saying that because that for me is really important.
One thing I want to say too, when I talk about voting, I don't think we have to remember when we talk about voting, not to ostracize those people who don't vote the same way we do. Right. One of the big thing is once somebody doesn't vote the way we want to, we can't talk to them anymore. We're revoking cards to the cookout. We got to remember as a community, we have to be able to come together. So I don't want to misinterpret anything I'm saying as only vote for one side. Like it to me, it's just voting. But be able to defend your point of why you're voting for X or why you're voting for Y. Like if that's the person you want to vote for, cool. Explain why. And then we have to be mindful enough if they have a valid point, not to, if they feel like they have a valid point, not to chastise them so much that they feel like they can never come home. And I think we also have a lot of that going on where we're just separating and pushing people out. Like, remember, at the beginning of the table, at the beginning of the conversation, I said we need different voices at the table. So I do think it's important, but I want us to be engaged and respectfully or civilly. I think that's a better way to say it. Because when you talk about all the movements, remember the civil part is important.
Could not have said it better myself.
Absolutely. And with DEI and other initiatives being scrapped, what are some other ways for students of color to find like opportunities, or diverse students to find opportunities that have honestly historically been in place just to kind of help that support that you were talking about earlier?
I think when we say scrap, we got to be careful about that because I think sometimes they're changing or evolving. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to, in this instance, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to hope that they're evolving. I think that we are looking at how we better serve students, how we better engage students. What do we do to make sure that we're being more inclusive, even in what we do? And taking the chance to say, hey, if we're not doing X, okay, how can we be better at it? How can we be more engaged? Every day we're looking at how many more people can we serve, how many more people can we work to put it out there that individuals are in these spaces. So students may need to do some seeking, meaning finding pockets of people they are, but you all know when you blend or you gel with someone, you reach out to them and you say, hey, can I come and talk to you? Most folks, like if you come to my office, and long as it's before 4:30, because I got to do the dad pickup thing, I'm usually willing to sit, right? Or if you see me outside or you see me at Walmart or you see me at Wings and things, hey, I need to talk to you. Come through. Like that's usually my attitude. And many of the people here will do that. We just we have to meet each other halfway.
That like building those connections after kind of like finding those spaces where those people are to connect is really important. So and has impacted me as well. So, and I'm sure a lot of us in this room. So thank you for that.
I was having a conversation with my mom the other day about like everything happening DEI, like he said. And if anything, this kind of, when you think about it, instead of scrapping, like evolving, this kind of motivates me even more. And like the people that are in this room, like how we succeed in our different paths to get to the higher place even more, because it's like, okay, if you take away the DEI, like if you think that's the reason that we're supposed to be in that space, when we still get in that space, what are they going to say? Like they're going to have nothing to say when there's still black pilots, when there's still black reporters, black scientists, black lawyers, when an entire generation and beyond of college students got their DEI stripped away. Like that's why, you know, when you're talking about those connections, like reaching out and working even harder and establishing those things, if anything, is even more important, just to show them like that's really why we're here, not because of this whatever you think that put us there just because.
I think when you come to positions like that, when you're saying we have to show them, you know, we've always been on 110%, right? But I think it's about how we engage and how we carry it. I think one of you all said it, and I forget who said it. But for some folks, this may be their first time dealing with a person who is truly different from them. And it's not about because they had one person who they knew was from the same zip code, right? Because you start to talk about affluence and what does that mean? And so we have to make sure that we're able to speak on different levels and that we're all able to move forward. So I appreciate the idea of saying, how are we going to get there? Like, what is it going to be for us to move forward? What does that look like? So yes, sir, I appreciate you saying that.
First of all, thank you so much for coming and, you know, talking to us. I think what I want to end off on is like one last question for me. Here at Penn State, what opportunities do people have, like, that we might not know about? Like, what are ways that we can either get involved, or what opportunities, just how can students, all students, not just students of color, diverse students, but all students, like really be engaged more here at Penn State and like with each other?
No, that's a pretty great question. I think supporting each other at events, little things, like it can be big things, but it's the little things. Like if you see students going to events where you've never been before, or just getting in touch with other e-boards and doing joint programming to understand. And I mean, understanding in a safe space, right? Understanding where everyone knows that, hey, this is conversation and dialogue. We're trying to understand each other and why things are the way they are. You all are in the best position, I think, students are in the best position to communicate with one another, because especially here, because every Saturday, you all sit, not every Saturday, but just about every Saturday in the fall, you all sit together and everybody is happy to be here. Well, what happens when it's Sunday? Well, let's talk. Let's get together. Let's go to somebody's church. Let's go to somebody's mosque. Let's go to somebody's temple. And I'm saying that, and I'm a CME kind of person. And if you don't know what that means, look it up. You'll figure it out. But getting together and going and talking and eating lunch. Like last year, not maybe last year, 2 years ago, one of my classmates was observing Eid and invited me to come. Like I'd never been to the Muslim breaking the fast, right? I knew folks who were Muslim who would celebrate, went, it was great. Like I had to try, no, I didn't have to, but I tried some different foods, some stuff I didn't know about. But I got to sit with him and his family and learn. Um, and that was something small, but to me it meant a lot because one, he invited me to come, two, because I came and I was one of the few people who was able to go. Um, just do the small things first. We can get to the big things, but if you can start small, each step increasingly puts us on a path to success.
I love that. I love the theme of community. I think that is so, so important in a time where it seems like so much is going wrong and we're like everybody's so disconnected from each other. I think taking the time to come together and really build that community and really build those connections is such an important lesson. So once again, from all of us here, thank you for your time, for your wise words. This means a lot to us, and I think this was one of my favorite conversations that I've had on BTM. So thank you again. And if you have any last words, you've given us so much already, but any parting pieces of advice?
Yeah, talk to the old folks. Many of us are happy to sit down and talk, and I'm including me in that old folks situation. But I think the biggest thing is to remember everybody wants to do well. And I think it's about there's some level of humanity to it. And what I mean by that, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be in your quote unquote in your feelings. But it's what do we do after that, right? We've got to talk, we've got to communicate, we got to get up the next day, and we got to keep pushing forward. Like all of you all are here to graduate. We are to help you do that. Except for Dan. We're gonna keep holding him for a while. So um, but yeah, no, but I appreciate the time and I appreciate you all letting me ramble on. So thank you.
All right, well, we're going to let you go now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your
so much.
evening.